Everyone in that diner thought she was just a shy girl eating alone, until three men ripped her shirt and laughed. They didn't know who she was. They didn't know who was riding toward that diner at 90 miles an hour. And when the roaring engines arrived, every soul inside froze. This story will hold your breath hostage till the very end. Rain hammered the highway like thousands of tiny fists as Lena Ward, a quiet 19-year-old waitress from a nearby town, walked into the old Route 59 diner after finishing her late shift. The neon sign flickered above her, casting weak blue light on her tired face. She wasn't there to meet anyone, she just needed a moment to breathe, a moment away from the world. Inside the diner, the smell of coffee and grilled onions wrapped around her like a warm blanket. She took her usual corner booth, hugged her jacket tightly, and gazed at the window, lost in thought. No one knew what she carried in her heart, the grief of losing her parents, and the secret that she was the younger sister of Jackson Ward, one of the most feared members of the Hells Angels. But Lena hated violence. She hated trouble. She just wanted peace. Tonight, peace didn't want her. Three men stumbled into the diner, loud, drunk, and hunting for the kind of trouble that had no conscience. They scanned the room like predators looking for the easiest prey, and their eyes landed on Lena. She kept her head down, hoping they'd ignore her. But trouble always finds the quiet ones first. The tallest man, broad, tattooed, and smirking, walked up to her booth. "Well, you here alone, sweetheart?" Lena's throat tightened. She didn't answer. He laughed and slid into the seat across from her, while his two friends cornered her from the side. Lena's heart thudded in her chest. She could feel the familiar panic she tried so hard to bury rising again. "Come on," another man said, grabbing her wrist. "Smile for us." When she pulled back, the man behind her grabbed her shoulder and ripped her shirt, the sound slicing through the diner like a scream no one dared release. The room fell silent. People froze, their fear stronger than their sense of justice. Lena clutched what was left of her shirt, trembling, eyes burning, not with anger, but with shame. She whispered, "Please, stop." But they didn't. They laughed. Until the sound no one expected filled the night. Vroom. The unmistakable thunder of motorcycles, three of them, roaring up to the diner like a storm tearing through the darkness. Every head turned toward the windows as the bikes screeched to a stop. The men at Lena's booth looked confused, then pale. Because every biker knew the colors those jackets carried. The red and white. The skull and wings. Hell's Angels. And the one stepping off the leading bike was a man everyone feared but few understood. Jackson Ward, Lena's brother. He had come because she hadn't answered his call. Something told him she needed him. Inside the diner, Lena's breath shook as the door swung open. The bell jingled softly, too softly for the storm that walked in. Jackson's eyes scanned the room once. Then he saw her. His little sister. Shaking. Her shirt torn. The world seemed to stop breathing. Jackson didn't shout. He didn't curse. He didn't even blink. He simply walked toward Lena with a calmness more terrifying than rage. His boots echoed softly against the tiles, each step tighter, heavier, colder. The three men who had tormented Lena backed away immediately. They had heard stories of Hell's Angels, men who lived by loyalty, brotherhood, and a code that never forgave the harm of family. But none of them imagined they would face one tonight. Jackson knelt beside Lena first, placing his jacket gently around her shoulders. His hands, covered in rings and scars, shook slightly as he fastened the zipper. He cupped her face, brushing a tear away with his thumb. "Who touched you?" he asked quietly. Lena shook her head, terrified that the night would get even worse. "I just want to go home," she whispered. But Jackson had already seen the bruises on her arm. He had already seen the men trembling by the counter. He stood slowly, turning his head toward them with a stare so cold it could shatter bone. "You hurt my sister," he said, voice low, deadly calm. "So we're going to have a talk." The men tried to run, but the two bikers behind Jackson blocked the exit. They weren't there for violence, they were there for justice. And justice, for them, came with consequences. But Lena stood up suddenly. "Jackson, please," she said. "I don't want more pain. I don't want anyone hurt." Her voice broke, and Jackson's jaw tightened. His entire body was built for war, but those words disarmed him like nothing else could. He turned back to her, eyes softening. "You sure?" She nodded. He exhaled deeply, then walked up to the trembling men. "You will apologize to her," he said. "Every one of you. And then you will leave this town and never come near her again. Because if you do..." He leaned in, his voice a whisper that made the men shake. "You won't get another chance." The men apologized, stumbling, stuttering, sweating. Lena listened, tears sliding down her cheeks, not from fear now, but from relief. When they left, Jackson guided her outside where the rain had softened into a drizzle. He placed his helmet on her head gently. "You call me first," he said. "Not after." She managed a small smile. "I didn't want to be a burden." "You're my sister," he replied. "You could never be a burden." The engines roared alive again, but this time, the sound felt like protection, not danger. Lena climbed onto the back of Jackson's bike, holding onto him tightly as they pulled away from the diner. For the first time in years, she felt safe. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. And as the bikes disappeared into the dark highway, one message lingered.